How's it going, guys? We're going to give you a quick market update plus touch on a coin that I think is at a very attractive buying opportunity right now and where I would aim to actually take profits on this coin. You've probably seen the title of the video, but let's get into it. We're going to just quickly go over Bitcoin. We're going to quickly go over Ethereum. And after that, we'll get into that coin. And that is going to be it. So this is going to be a very short one. But before we get into any of this, first of all, I post daily free trades that have done very well so far on my Instagram, and I highly recommend you go check my Instagram out. Daily free trades are posted there. I post all sorts of other educational content there, so a lot of value is on my Instagram, and I'm just genuinely also trying to build it up right now. So I'd highly recommend checking my Instagram out, and I'd be very appreciative of you showing love there, following me, because again, I do genuinely believe you're going to get a lot of value out of that. And we're going to be doing giveaways. We're going to be doing all sorts of stuff on my Instagram. So again, highly recommend checking the Instagram out and following. But with that aside, everything's timestamped below. If you want to go check out my rundown on Virtuals Protocol, then you can go and check on that, because that's what we're going to be talking about. But if you are interested in just a general overview of Bitcoin, and you're interested in a general overview of that of Ethereum, of that of Solana, we're going to touch on those big three before we move into virtuals. So let's touch on Bitcoin real quick. And not only am I going to show you what I think is going to happen with Bitcoin, but here is my thoughts on a Bitcoin short that I currently do have limits set for. So I'm just simply waiting for price to touch this level. So as you can see, I have a short here at $115,164 per Bitcoin, with a DCA at 115,760, with a stop loss at 116,855. Now this is subject to change, but what I do think is going to happen here, we just closed above the 50 EMA, we closed above this support level. Obviously buyers are stepping in. Obviously everything looks very good right now. What I think could happen is we make a swing up, we tap into this supply zone that I have identified here. And if you want to see what the supply zone is, why I had marked this out, we can go to the 4-hour time frame, as this is where I had marked it. And I define a supply zone as a sharp movement down in price, which you can see we have here, followed by consolidation, followed by another sharp movement down in price. Therefore, this would be a supply zone. Okay, so we have our supply zone here. I drew this out, and the way I play a supply zone is I set my entry to, in this case, the bottom of the supply zone, and I set my DCA to the middle of it. So in this scenario, what we're going to have happen is, in my opinion, I believe price will, maybe here and shortly, come down, tap into the supply zone before coming back down to form potentially a higher low than the previous higher low. And we just continue up with bullish structure, or we do get a strong pullback, because we've had a strong movement up here, and if this does happen to be quote unquote a double top, where we come up, fail to form a higher high than this major swing high, then I do think this would be a very good short. So that's what I see happening with Bitcoin. I do think that we will get a nice short opportunity here before we continue further upwards to either form a new all-time high or just fail to create one entirely, which would not look good on the markets whatsoever. But I just like to bring that up. So that's my thoughts on Bitcoin. That's why I have a short opportunity. Okay, so that's my thoughts. Now let's go to ETH. ETH, on the other hand, I had a Ethereum long placed that I had entered literally around here with stops like set down here, and we caught a nice almost 4-hour trade, which we're fully out of. The reason for that, even though we closed above the 50 EMA, ETH is going to be facing a lot of resistance here. It's going to face a lot of resistance at 4,300 with this middle QVWAP band. There's a higher QVWAP band here at $4,500. Okay, there's a bunch of other things. All right, those other things are, we have a big bearish fair value gap here that we've kind of tapped into there, but there is also, would you know, a supply zone. Actually, there's not a supply zone, never mind. You could say it's here, but I personally don't think that. If we go and do a fib retracement, which is a very nice, easy tool to use, and we do it something of this nature where I take it from, and everyone does it differently, but I'm going to start from this top and go down to that swing low here. Then you can see that if we come up and tap into $4,300 to $4,400, then this could technically be a premium, aka where sellers are going to potentially step into, and this also coincides with the bearish for value gap. So I do think this is an area where you could also get an ETH short. And would this be wrong to take? No. Like on the daily time frame, we are technically, if we come down, form a low here, forming bullish structure yet again before moving back up, maybe tapping into that to create a high, right? So we tap into the premium to create a higher high. We come down and we still form a higher low before continuing back up in bullish momentum again, bullish structure. So that's the scenario I see for ETH. Okay, that's pretty much what I would expect, unless we just happen to just disastrously come down, close below the support and the 100 EMA. Then I think we are going pretty low, around 3K. Because there's one thing that I would like everyone to look at. There's one thing I would like everyone to look at in ETH, and that is the range. Okay, there's a well-respected range where prices bounced off of numerous times for Ethereum. Okay, it doesn't really coincide much with this, even though yes, we got a bounce of that high here, a little bit of rejection there, but here, okay, this most recent range that I identified from November of 2023 to now, okay, multiple rejections off this level here. That's 3 rejections that I see. We pushed up, rejected off this high, pushed up again. Didn't really get close to the side, but nonetheless, we came down, tapped this line again for a 4th time, a 5th time, a 6th time, a 7th time before falling below, coming back up, falling, and tapping it an 8th time. So this line is very well respected, and I'd say this is the bottom of our range currently. You could even say this would be the next range low at around $1,400 per ETH, which would have been a great long opportunity, by the way. But you can see on the high, we tapped it once, almost tapped it twice, tapped it twice, tapped it 3 times, came up, almost tapped it again, and started to trade above it, where we currently are sitting. Now we did fall below it, but we came back up before closing above it. Therefore, I don't think we have much to worry about with this range unless we see something like this, right, where we come down, come up, come down again, fail to go back up within that range, and we continue downwards to potentially pretty low. You know what I mean? Potentially pretty low. So we're going to have to see how it all plays out. But I think ETH is going to go higher in these coming weeks to coming months, just off of how we've been performing. If we look at the weekly time frame, okay, we still look pretty good. We still look pretty good. However, it does look like we shifted from bullish to bearish structure on the weekly time frame. Why do I say that? Well, look, we have a low here, a high, a higher low, a lower high, and now a lower low. So this might not be good on the weekly time frame, but it's all subject to change. We'll have to see, because that can easily change as well. But as we know, the higher the time frame, the more reinforced the structure will be, and the more respected price will be at those levels. And then finally, touching at Sol, I personally also have a short here. It's basically the same reasoning, really the same reasoning here. Okay, now you could make it long right now on Sol. Why? Because we're tapping into this support. We just flipped it from resistance to support. We just closed above the 50 EMA. There's good continuation, so you could potentially take that. But I did draw some fib retracement here. There's other things as well that are up here as well that I do think Sol, if it does come up into $232, could be a good short to potentially a decent level also. But this is not something I have limits placed for. So that is a touch on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. The last thing we're going to talk about before touching on virtual, is there any news that came out today that really is and would have any impact on the markets? Really not much. There was not any high impact news. Now, will we have any tomorrow? We'll have the JOLTS job openings, which are expected to be 0.01 million higher than previously, but obviously actual is going to definitely vary from that unless we happen to be just as we were forecasted. And we'll go over that tomorrow, what the result is that is, what effect is that going to have on the markets, because it's important for you as a crypto investor to know what this macroeconomic data is and what implications it has on the market. So we'll get into that. But now let's touch on Virtual. Now we're only going to be taking a look at Virtual's protocol from a technical analysis perspective, but as a project, I do really like Virtuals for a multitude of different reasons. So the reason I like Virtuals is because it is essentially the hub for AI agents that are built in essentially the crypto market. But in general, it's just a solid project with very good backing that I do think has really good potential to do very well, assuming, again, we have Q4 doing very well for 2025. So we're going to have to see how things play out. But I would say this is a well-respected trend line we've been bouncing off of. If that is the case, then we should potentially come down and tap into this next key level, which you could say could be at around 90 cents. And this, by the way, is a coin that I have literally on a Notion sheet that I only give out to people who pay for a server I'm an analyst in. They pay $100 a month, and I give them a Notion sheet for one of my value adds there. And Virtuals is on there. Okay, my buying targets are 80 cents to $1.30. And I do think that those are good levels to buy this token. We're currently at $1. And as you can see, previously, around this area, we faced a good bit of resistance. This is a psychological level as well. So I do think that Virtuals is at a good buying point, in my opinion. This is where I would start to load up on a position here. And here's where I would buy some more, depending on if we dip or not. I would buy at 90 cents. Okay. And then I'd buy at 75 cents. So I get my DCAs around there. Last DCA, I would say, would be around 50 cents. But currently, my only view on this is a buy right now. I would buy some right now. This is not financial advice at all whatsoever, but I would buy some right now. I would buy some at 90 cents. That's around where we would tap that trend line again. And then I would buy some at 75 cents if we do happen to drop to that level. Okay. So that is kind of the buy targets I would have for Virtuals. And then my sell targets would be around $1.50 for my first sell target. Would be $1.50, which would be a 50% move up from where we're currently sitting. And my final TP would be around that of $5, which would be around a new all-time high for Virtuals. Or it would be higher. It would be slightly under the previous all-time high for Virtuals. So it'd be around a 5x from here. Would be where I would look to take profits. Fine, just to be out of Virtuals would be a 5x from here. But I would start to load up here, not financial advice whatsoever. Okay, so that is my opinion on Virtuals protocol, guys. Quick little video for you, quick little market update. Ideally, I'm gonna have these out earlier in the day, which will just be, in the afternoon, rather than, for me, it's around 11 p.m. right now. So I will aim to have these out a lot earlier. With all that being said, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys later.